From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode 495. Today's show is brought to you by our three excellent sponsors, Ecamm, ZocDoc, and Squarespace. I'm one of your co-hosts, Federico Vitici, and it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Stephen Hackett. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Federico. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And we're also joined by Myke Hurley.
Hello, governors.
Hello.
Hello.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
Going to start the show with some follow-up.
Yes.
Okay.
Comes from Keegan. Keegan writes in first and says, I'm a classical musician, cellist, who uses an iPad Pro 12.9-inch for reading my sheet music.
Okay.
The paper-like screen protector is great for reducing glare when my iPad is on a music stand, so I would be tempted by a nano-textured iPad Pro. I would like to just give a quick aside here for something I didn't realize in for 6 days. It can't be nano-texture because you can't touch that. But matte, let's just call it matte screen iPad Pro. Of course, my iPad is basically a glorified PDF viewer, so I'd probably be more tempted by a 12.9-inch iPad Air to save some money. This is good. The main reason I wanted to talk about this is for that idea. This from Keegan kind of like sparked a thought in my mind where I wonder if the existence of a bigger iPad Air, which may come at some point, it still has not, would actually take away more of the Pro market than the Plus phone takes from the Max phone.
Yes, and in fact, this is quite perfect because I have follow-up from like I have follow-up from my real life that is very much about what you just said, Myke.
Okay.
So Sylvia is studying for a new advanced course that she needs to teach, dance and Pilates and all that sort of stuff. And so she has these video courses that she needs to follow. And so she asked me this week, hey, what's the best way for me to follow along with these videos? And mind you, these are 2-hour-long videos that she needs to study and take notes on. And she was like, should I use my MacBook Pro or maybe is it time that I try an iPad again? And so I was like, yeah, you can try an iPad.
Were you trying to play it really cool there? Like, you're the iPad guy. Be like, you don't want to come in too strong. He's like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to...
you gotta play cool with
it. Yeah,
her.
because I'm sure that in Federico's family life, the answer to many questions is why not just use an iPad? I'm sure this comes up a lot,
Or let me cut open a MacBook Air for you.
Yeah, no, if I seem too eager with her of anything, she's gonna be immediately turned off, So
that's a different thing.
That's a problem.
No, but
to deal with that.
I don't want to sound too excited about an iPad. It's yeah, sure.
You rip open your trench coat and it's just iPads all taped on the inside. It's I got a bunch for you to choose from right here.
I literally have a section in storage. We have a storage box downstairs, and I have a whole section just iPads. I have 6 different iPads or something. So anyway, I'm I'm gonna go grab you an iPad, reset it, and set it up for you. And so I gave her the latest iPad Air that I have, which is the 4th gen iPad Air, I believe. And so she used it for a couple of days. So I'm going to skip ahead. Spoiler alert, she went back to the MacBook Pro as the main device to take notes. And a couple of interesting points here. So she's using Freeform in a really cool way. So she has the video on one side and a Freeform board on the other. And she's taking all kinds of cool looking visual notes. She's got sticky notes and text boxes and a bunch of handwritten notes with a pencil. She's got colored arrows and shapes. It looks very cool. And it's yeah, that's a perfect use of Freeform. She tried the iPad. And within an hour of trying an iPad Air, so this is the iPad Air with the Magic Keyboard, the latest version of an iPad Air. She said within an hour, this is nice because it's much lighter and portable than a Mac, but the screen is too small. So there you go. The comment about a bigger iPad Air, I think it would be interesting for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
She said split view multitasking on this device, it's much better than split view on a Mac. which is the
Oh, yeah.
weird full screen thing.
Yeah.
Didn't
She
exist.
saw Stage Manager and immediately went back to split view because like she hated like all the windows moving around and like all the weird sizes and all of that. But then her biggest comment is that like besides, wanting a larger iPad Air because the screen was still too small, she said this is using an iPad feels better compared to the last time I tried it, which was like a couple of years ago. But I am surprised that there are still so many things that are like behind macOS. Like a very simple thing. She was looking for like a button in Safari that wasn't there, and the Mac version has it and the iPad version doesn't. And there are like so many like things that you can do in the Mac version of an application that you cannot do in the iPad version. And another example was like, so on the Mac I have Finder and I have Dropbox in Finder, and I can just go there and a document syncs with Dropbox, but I can also open it with Preview. And so she asked me, so 2 questions. Is there Preview on iPadOS? And can I do the same thing with Dropbox and Files? And I just looked at it and I was like, now you know my pain,
Yeah.
because there's no Preview app on the iPad and there's no Dropbox integration on the iPad. And so she went back to the Mac and she told me, I'm going to try again in a couple of years. And if they do, a bigger iPad Air, that's going to be nice. But yeah, I just prefer working on a Mac. So,
Yep. Story as old as time at this point.
I knew I liked her the moment I met her.
Yeah. Me too, even though it's challenging for me, sometimes.
The thing that I wonder is like, do people want the biggest iPad or the best iPad? Because I think with the iPhone, people want the best iPhone. Like they just want the best iPhone.
Yeah.
Which is why the Pro phones sell the best, and I think why the Max sells the best of all of them at the moment. But nevertheless, it's why the Pro phones they sell better. And I'm just wondering if that's going to be the case for the iPad. Like, does the iPad Pro do well because people want a big iPad or the best iPad? I don't know.
I think maybe people want the biggest iPad that doesn't cost a fortune.
I think that might be the case. Yes.
Yeah. The one question on my mind right now, as we are still waiting for these new iPads, the question on my mind is, what will Apple do to justify potentially spending even more money? I mean, in Europe, an iPad Pro is 2,000 euros, like in a pretty standard configuration with a Magic Keyboard and everything. What does Apple do to? I mean, it's already quite a task to justify at that price an iPad Pro for the trajectory that iPadOS is on.
Mm-hmm.
But if those prices get even higher, what is the story there besides, oh yeah, it's got a nicer display? Right? That is the one question on my mind right now.
Maybe this is why they haven't released them yet, because I'm not sure. They're still working it out, It's like, what's the story, man? I don't know.
What are we typing in this press release?
They're just all sitting there in a warehouse unit, and they're just waiting.
They're looking at them, be like, guys, I got it. Maybe no, I don't have it.
and that's why the phone, I think, is an interesting counterpoint, because the Pro Max has real differences, right? You get the extra camera, you get the different build, it's faster. And so far on the iPad, like, yeah, there's the screen and the 12.9, but honestly, I don't think anyone who's like cross-shopping these cares about, does it have the M1 or the M2 or the M3? Like, I don't think the silicon is enough to justify the stratification, so it's got to be something else. And, I guess we'll find out one day if they decide to release these things.
Someday.
The Department of Justice sued Apple.
This isn't follow-up?
Because, it is kind of. I've put it here because it's like you kind of can't not mention it, but I don't think we're going to talk about it.
No.
Nah.
So there are places where you can go. One True John did a great job putting his thing together. I'll link to Jason's article. I'll also link to Upgrade where we spoke about it. How much are we going to talk about it? I don't think we need to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, just listen to Upgrade, read the story by John, and what else is there to say? We're just waiting to see what happens. I think Apple obviously will have a response within the next couple of months, and then it'll be a long, strung out battle of multiple years. So fun times. Yeah.
Oh, and also the European Union is like, no, Apple, it's not good enough. And they're investigating them because, and so like maybe fingers crossed. How long have we got until we have to grade that draft?
I think it was due today.
No.
It's in April.
April 17th.
Okay, fingers crossed. Because one of the things they're looking into is it seems like the core technology fee. So
we have time. We have time. Okay.
Big news. VVVDC 24 has been announced.
VVVDC, okay.
The Worldwide Developers Conference.
The Worldwide. That is, did you see obviously we're joking about the logo, but did you see that people are making fun of the fact that maybe it was a logo designed with AI? And because
it was.
That's typically, but it's funny because
that would be funny.
Because AI tools typically get the two W's next to each other wrong.
Well, they just get all words. Like if you're just like put in a word, it's like just random nonsense that it puts in. But that is, I will say, that is a funny thought. Like, I thought you'd been serious, but that's pretty funny.
If you think about it, the W is like the hands of the alphabet. And AI can't do either.
This isn't the first time they did. Like last year, it looked like this, right? At least on the merchandise. Like I have a tote bag, and it looks like that. At least where they joined the W's together. Maybe it's just getting smaller over time. I like it though. The logo, it's fun. It's very reminiscent of older logos. Like I feel like they've used this kind of style a lot, like it's kind of neon-y, shimmery stuff.
Yeah, it's very similar to last year, but
yeah. So funny thing, last year they announced it as we were going live with Connected, and we had to like jump off. It happened for Remaster yesterday, so we were all sitting down to record, and then it dropped, and then Porsche had to wait a while Federico mainly was doing things, and I was reading things.
Same with Mac Power Users, actually.
Oh, really?
We were hitting record, and it came out, and I was like, nope, I got to go fix a hotel room situation, and then came back and recorded.
Yeah, because it wasn't the week we thought it was going to be, right?
I thought it'd be June 3rd, and it's the week of the 10th instead. So, which is fine.
My memory is that you sounded very confident last week.
I felt very confident last week, but this means I don't have to travel on my wedding anniversary, so that's always good.
That's good. That is actually good news.
Good news. So yeah, June 10th, there is going to be a special event at Apple Park, just one day.
What do you think it's going to be?
I don't know. Maybe paintball or something.
Say special event.
Can you imagine? We open the center of the ring.
That's right.
Last developer standing. They get a 3% cut difference on their developer rates.
I think it's gonna be a public reading of the DMA.
Could be.
We decided to respond. Maybe it's like we were just going now. Like there are new developer terms, and if you stay inside of Apple Park, you can have them. But if you leave, then you have to go back to the old.
Interesting.
One.
Interesting.
What if it's like a Renaissance fair?
Okay.
They're leaning into like, what California thinks of Europe, I guess. Renaissance fair, there's food and stuff, but there's also games you can play. Like you can ring toss and horseshoes and stuff. But like if you're too good at it, they take 50 cents for like every ring you get on it.
Right.
Like the core technology
the
fee
more
is in there.
You earn.
Right.
The less money you make.
Right.
At the end of
Interesting idea for the Renaissance Fair. I could see Tim Cook as a town crier, honestly.
Could be. Hear ye.
Phil Schiller's in the stocks after arguing with Epic. But also, so there's that. But then there's also like another Renaissance Fair, like 2 doors down, that's not as good, but has different things going on. It's like the alternative Renaissance Fair.
That's good. Didn't know where you're going with that.
Okay,
Liked it.
I understand now. Okay.
So I'm gonna make the executive decision to move on.
Yes, thank you.
There is a new Apple developer YouTube account where they're gonna actually this year post the sessions. There's some stuff up there from WWDC 23 and some other fun videos that are up there, and they're gonna be posting them there, which I think is really great. Like, why not? You know,
Much better to use YouTube and YouTube compatible apps than being stuck inside the developer app. I know this is going to be very convenient for me to organize my research. Yeah.
And as content creators, we all get a very short period of time where we get to go to this official Apple YouTube account and feel good that the videos are like 300 views per video. Because obviously that won't be the case time next WWDC comes around. But like for right now, we can all be like, oh, look, we get more views on YouTube than Apple
Look at
does.
this cute account with 15K subscribers. Oh,
try again,
nice.
you know. Yeah. But I'm sure by the time WWDC 24 comes around, it will be very different. I think it's great that they're putting this stuff on YouTube. Like, it makes it more accessible and easier for people rather than having to use the Apple Developer app. It will also surface this content to more people, which will be good. It might, more frequently show up in search results and stuff like that for people who are actually looking for this exact stuff. So I think this is good. I like this. I like them going out and like meeting people where they are rather than making people come to them. Like, I think that's what WWDC has been about for the last 4 years now. And I think that this is another example of that. So I actually think, all jokes aside, this is like a really good thing to exist, because why make it more complicated for people than otherwise? So I think it's really good. Greg Jazuak said that WWDC will be, quote, absolutely incredible AI. So there you go.
Capitalize. I love that the Jaws has the sense of humor of a connected segment. Which I appreciate. I mean, okay, AI, cool. AI. We'll see. So I'm going. Steven is going.
Yep.
Myke is not going.
I'm leaving it like a little open. My plan is no, but some things might change and I might be able to. So like,
okay. I like the option.
Yeah, I'm probably like 80% no.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Okay, we'll see with that 20%.
This episode of the show is made possible by Ecamm. If you're using your Mac for live video production or live streaming, you got to be using Ecamm. It does all aspects of video, not just live streaming. It's perfect for simplifying really any video production workflow. It's easy enough to get started quickly, but powerful enough that you can create just about anything with video. And I love Ecamm. It really impresses me how built into macOS it feels. They're taking advantage of all the stuff Apple is doing in the system. So you can pull in all sorts of aspects, windows, you can manage the background. All this is really easy. They even have this cool live camera switcher, so you can support multiple cameras and screen sharing and like direct it all in real time. So whether you're streaming, recording, podcasting, or presenting, you can stand out from the crowd with high quality video. You can use Ecamm to add logos, titles, lower thirds, graphics, share your screen, drop in video clips, bring on interview guests, use a green screen, and so much more. Ecamm Live members are entrepreneurs, marketing professionals, podcasters, educators, musicians, church leaders, bloggers, and content creators of all kinds. So join the ranks of people using Ecamm to make incredible video on their Mac. You can get 1 month free by going to ecamm.com/connected and using the code CONNECTED. That's Ecamm, ECAMM, ecamm.com/connected. Go there to check it out. The link is in the show notes. Our thanks to Ecamm for their support of the show.
All right, folks. It is time for a brand new segment of our favorite new part of the show, Teach Italian.
It's a new segment of this segment?
Well, no, it's a new installment of Teach Italian. Okay.
I was like, wow.
So, first of all, we have some follow-up from Sam saying, I just got a point in a pub quiz thanks to Teach Italian. Keep it up, Federico. You're changing the world 6 letters at a time. I am very glad to hear this, Sam. I kind of want to know which letter it was. And also JT asks, does the WW at the top of this year's WWDC artwork constitute an Italian triple V?
Wait, because you got W, right?
Triple V.
So it will be
Maybe.
triple V. Okay.
Triple
Yeah,
V.
I get it.
Rather
Triple
than
V.
W.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we would just say. So I also got a bunch of questions yesterday from people like, how do you pronounce the WWDC in?
Oh
in
yeah,
Italy?
I actually wanted to make that request to you today that you could teach us WWDC 24.
So I actually don't know, because even when I speak in Italian, I always say WWDC. If I were to guess, I mean, it sounds awful when you
yeah,
actually
but I
spell it
want
out in
you to
Italian.
say it. Say it. How does it go?
WWDC? Something like that?
DC is nicer than DC.
DC. Yeah, it's DC.
Let's just call it-
WWDC.
Wait, so
it sounds
like,
awful.
how do you say W again?
W.
So it would be like dop dop.
Dop dop. Dop dop DC. Dop dop DC. All right, so today, friends, we are going to move up the scale of the Italian language, and we are starting with the personal pronouns. So, it's I, you, he, she, they, we, you, they. We're going to do the Italian versions. Now, I got to say that in terms of, so unfortunately, Italian, like other Latin-based languages, is a very gender-based language.
I hate this so much.
Yes.
So
yes,
like I'm
me
looking at your
too.
list here. This is basically what is Romanian too, like down to the actual spelling in some of them.
Yep.
It just frustrates me so much, the gendered languages.
Yep.
It's like it's just so unnecessary.
I know,
hate it.
I know, but I think the modern generation has thankfully been trying to modernize this by adding the Italian equivalent of the singular they. But in truth be told, in real life, if you use the singular they, unfortunately, people look at you in Italy very strange, especially people from the older generation. I don't care.
The issue is, if because people are not familiar, it's like you are gendering objects.
Yes,
Like,
we gender everything.
It's
Yep.
not just people or animals,
No.
like
No.
like living things. It is actually inanimate objects are gendered,
Yep.
which is
Yep.
very peculiar to me.
So we have gendered articles, like the article they, like if you want to say the apple, right? The they, there's a gendered version. For example, apple as a word in Italian, mela, is a feminine word, and whereas something like computer, it's a masculine word. So like il computer and la mela, which is insane, but that's the way it is in this language.
Yes.
So I have taken some liberty to teach you the modernized version of personal pronouns.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I'm gonna read you, and then we're gonna learn. Io, tu, lui, lei, loro, noi, voi, loro.
Okay.
All right.
Can I try and guess some?
Yes.
Can I guess?
Well, it's in order, so it's pretty easy.
Well,
to
but
guess.
not necessarily. Like, I mean, but in order of what? Io is I, tu
Yes.
is you.
Yes.
I'm assuming, is it lui, lei, loro is they?
So it's he, she, they.
Okay. Noi is...
You all? Plural you?
No.
Because I know voi would be we, right?
No.
No?
You have
Okay.
it backwards.
Okay, noi is we, voi is
Yep.
they?
No, voi is you. Plural you.
Plural.
Y'all. It's
Plural
y'all.
is you. Y'all. It's y'all, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what esse and loro would be.
No, so okay, so just say loro as
Loro.
the third plural person.
Okay.
So
Loro.
the antiquated versions of so the third person, right? He, she, they, or
Yeah.
in Italian, lui, lei, loro. The antiquated form that was taught to me in elementary school was egli and ella, which is just incredibly awful to say. nobody speaks like this anymore.
Oh, okay.
And similarly, nobody says, instead of loro, nobody says essi, which is like nobody talks like that anymore.
Okay.
So disregard the antiquated form. And once again, so I, it's io. You, it's io. Yes, perfect.
Io. Yep.
You, it's tu.
Tu.
Yeah.
Tu.
The third person, he, she, they, it's lui, lei, loro.
So in he, she, they. So Louis is he, lei is she, loro is they.
Yep.
Okay.
Stephen.
Louis, lei, Laura.
That's pretty good. We, it's noi.
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 Yep. You, plural, is voi.
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 Yep. And they is loro.
Loro.
Laura.
Why are we doing that one twice?
Singular and plural they.
Yep. It's the singular and plural.
Oh, but
person.
it's the same?
Yep. It's the same. Yeah.
Okay.
We basically implemented, like the modern generation basically stole the singular they from the English language.
Okay.
You know, they
Yeah.
a bunch of people try to come up with another pronoun, and I think it's just more elegant to copy the English strategy.
I think, yeah, I mean, especially because it's probably being influenced by American English, I think, primarily, that it just makes sense to copy it, the style, right?
Yeah. So there you go. These are the personal pronouns. And next week, we're going to go with other variations of these pronouns. And then we'll move up to verbs. But thank you for following.
We just giving up on numbers?
Oh, no, we're going to do the numbers next. But first,
Okay.
I want you to understand,
All right.
these parts. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
I had a Vision OS guest mode experience that I wanted to share with you both. I don't know about you, but this is the first time that so we went to dinner at some friends. They are 2 teenage kids, and they wanted to try the Vision Pro, so I said I'd bring it over. And this is the first time that I have done a Vision OS like guest experience for multiple people. I don't know if either of you have had this experience yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because really, Adina tried it like once or twice, and then that was it. Because it stayed at the studio, so it's she hasn't really expressed a desire to really want to try it anymore. But like, it hasn't come up. And I had like a few things that I just wanted to go over. I'm sure this is well trodden ground by now, but it was my first time of it in this kind of experience, so I wanted to share it. The way in which you start guest mode, it's in Control Center, and you activate guest mode, and you have some settings which are good. Like, how would you like the audio to play? Because you can mirror, right? So you can choose to mirror to another device. It would not mirror to an iPad Mini. Don't know why, but just wouldn't.
That's how they're doing it in the store. I wonder if they're doing something special there.
Are they're using a Mini, not an iPad?
I thought it was a Mini. I could be wrong, but...
Because I know it will mirror to a regular iPad. I could not get it to mirror to my iPad Mini. I don't know why. So I could get it to do a Mac or an Apple TV.
Okay.
Apple TV, great, by the way, for a large group guest mode experience, right? To do it to the TV. And then you then get the option of how you want like apps to work. So you can either say, let people use everything, or let them use the apps that are currently open, which is, as a decision, I don't even know how you get there to that decision. Like, how is that the choice? Like, people can use all of the apps that I currently have open? Like, what is that as a decision? Like, why can't it just be everything or what I choose from a list and then just show me a list?
My only thought there is that maybe you want to show them 3 apps, so you like open them and then you can hand it over and they have access just to that. Like, maybe you want to walk them through something, a bit more curated. I agree that it's weird, but maybe that's the reasoning.
I mean, you could populate the list with the apps that are currently open, right? It's already checked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it's like, I'm like, well, I don't know what they're going to want. So I have to open like every possible app someone might want to try. It's super weird to me. Or even just like all apps except these ones, because that's really all I care about. Like, no messages, no mail, because I just don't need people getting all up in there. And I'll leave it at that. But very strange to me that the way that you start that off, like, sure, the way you describe it, I can understand a scenario, but like that is not a great way to do this, in my opinion. Like, in my opinion, because then I'm like opening 20 apps at first. No, silly. The fact that video does not work for anyone when you're mirroring is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Like, I understand why, for the sake and sanctity of copyright, we should not allow for mirroring. But like, why can't the person wearing the Vision Pro watch the content? And I just don't see it. Like, I just see a black screen. That is so bad as a user experience. Like, terrible. Even Apple stuff, right? Like, fine, Disney wants to be that way, whatever. But what about the immersive video that Apple makes? Like, you can't watch that. Like, the person in the Vision Pro can't watch it. And I do think for this device, it is helpful to be able to mirror constantly, because sometimes people get a little bit lost and you want to help them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But seeing people's reactions in general was amazing. I mean, the crowd pleasers were Encounter Dinosaurs, obviously.
Right.
The environments in general, people just liked going from one to the other to the other. Panoramas as well. I had my friend, like, I was like, airdrop me some of your favorite panoramas. And then they were just putting on like, oh my God.
That's a good idea to give a demo. I would not have thought about send me some of your photo. That's really smart.
Yeah, because I figured my panoramas don't mean anything, you know? It's just like, oh, look, here's a panorama. Like, great. And I was struck again by a couple of things. One, just how delightful people find the experience. Like, it reminds me of how it made me feel, right? The first time that I got to try it. Like, it really is kind of mind-blowing at first, and you get used to it. But also just seeing people of mixed interest in computer usage immediately understand the interaction method, like looking and pinching. Like, it takes like a minute or two. Especially the eye track, like the eye tracking setup is great, because you do it so many times that you understand exactly what you need to do the pinching to get it to work. But how quickly people get to understand eye tracking as like, look where you need to go and just tap, like, people get it very, very quickly in my experience. So yeah, I think that again, it was like really nice to see, because I left that experience being like, yeah, this is incredible technology. I mean, you know, we can say what we want for its like developer adoption and how many apps there are and but like, you can naturally assume something like that can be solved over time. But the foundational technology and interaction is really, really, really solid. And that's like the most important thing to get in the beginning. But yeah, guest mode could be a lot better in a bunch of ways. But though I think the video mirroring and the way in which you need to start guest mode could do with some serious improvement, in my opinion. So, but it was cool.
No, it's awesome. You said they were teenage kids. Like, did they have experience with other headsets? Do you know?
Yes.
Like, were they coming in with some experience?
Yeah, they're very used to the Quest.
Okay.
And like the initial comment was like, oh my God, this is so much cooler looking than the Quest, right? Yeah, that was part one.
It is.
And then just part two, just like the quality level is just,
yeah,
you know, they're so far beyond. Like one of them, the kid was also a gamer, right? Too. He was just like, oh, this is gonna be like so good for games. I didn't want to break it to him that there aren't really any, but there could be, and when there are, you know, it could be pretty amazing. But yeah, like they were very, very impressed by it.
I just saw a headline that I think Alto's Adventure is coming to Apple Arcade.
That was in the Apple Arcade thing, but that's just Alto's Adventure in a window. Like it's not.
Oh,
you know,
lame. I wanted more.
Yeah, that was in that Apple Arcade piece that came out when we one of the days that we were hoping for.
One of the many
iPad
days.
Pro.
Yeah, so every morning, so we have a group thread with OTJ.
Yeah.
And
every morning a blogger wakes up and knows that they're waiting for an iPad Pro.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so like the top of the hour for a couple hours every morning, I'm like, okay, is this it? And then it's just like silence. Nothing happens.
And then someone says maybe in an hour.
Yeah.
That's just this has
Maybe in
been
an hour?
us for like a month at this point.
Maybe in an hour. Hey, maybe at the top of the hour.
Maybe in an hour. Maybe in an hour.
Mhm.
Maybe in an hour. But there was a thing where I came out of an appointment, I think it was yesterday, and Federico and John were like making a joke about like, oh, look at this cool new iPad. And they got me. I thought there was actually an iPad. So
Oh, nice.
more for me.
That's mean.
Well done.
Yeah. You know, it happens
The
sometimes.
boy who cried iPad. That's
Yes,
gonna happen.
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not even buying an iPad, and I want him to come out.
I do want one. I do want one. I want an OLED. I really want an OLED iPad. Like, I think it would be great. And I do want one, but I'm just not sure how long it's going to take.
I'm telling you, since I switched back to the mini, since I took it away from my kid and gave them an iPad Pro, I just am loving it.
Yeah, iPad mini is awesome. I mean, what I want is what they won't give me, right?
OLED iPad mini.
OLED iPad mini, yeah.
God,
That's
be
what I
so
want.
sick.
But I'm not getting that. No one's giving me that. But I want it.
This episode of Connected is brought to you by ZocDoc. Are you the person in your family who has a reputation for treating yourself to nice things? Well, if you treat yourself to the top options with everything in life, why would you settle for finding a doctor? This is your health, and that's where ZocDoc comes in. It's the place where you can find and book tens of thousands of top-tier doctors, all with verified patient reviews. So don't settle. Go for the best and find the right doctor for you. With ZocDoc, you've got more options than you know. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near you, and you can instantly book appointments with them online. And that's awesome because you're no longer waiting on hold awkwardly. And those doctors all have verified reviews from actual real-life human being patients. We're talking about booking appointments with tens of thousands of top-rated, patient-reviewed, credible doctors and specialists. You can use filters to specifically dial down for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat basically any condition you're searching for. The typical wait time to see a doctor booked on ZocDoc is between 24 and 72 hours. That's it, and you can often score same-day appointments. This makes so much sense to me. Finding a doctor can be a real hassle. You're not sure if the reviews you're reading are real. You're making a bunch of phone calls, spend a lot of time on the phone just to find out they don't take your insurance. ZocDoc makes all of this much easier. They have millions of users, and you can go check it out at ZocDoc.com/connected. That's ZocDoc. ZocDoc.com/connected to download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Our thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring the show and Relay FM.
So, according to the latest report by Mark Gurman, not too many details, but basically Mark hinted at the fact that in iOS 18, beyond the AI focus, with these artificial intelligence features throughout the OS and the fact that Apple has been talking to a bunch of AI companies to integrate with their chatbots for generative AI features, there's also going to be a more customizable home screen. Now, we just know this. There was no other detail from Mark about what does it mean to have more customizable home screens. But I wanted to talk about this because it seems like this is one of the things that we have been talking about for many, many years at this point. The fact that the iOS home screen, compared to what you can get on a variety of Android devices, it's pretty stale. And, people have been resorting to all kinds of workarounds on iOS to have things like blank icons or, to hide text labels from icons and, widgets that sort of fake having a transparent background, like all sorts of hacks that by and large are just not necessary on Android. And I wanted to talk to you both about what you think should be needed on iOS to offer a more customizable home screen. And I also want to share some thoughts of my own.
I think it would be great for them to adopt some new customization. I will say I sent this article to Underscore on Sunday, and he was like, "Well, there goes my summer. Maybe not. I guess we'll see how far they go." But the home screen does feel stale. Like there are elements of it. I think the biggest thing is you got to start from the top left corner. that's been the same since you could go into jiggle mode for the very first time, like 13 years ago. I like what they've done with widgets. I like what they've done in other areas, but I think they could continue to push it forward. And I look forward to the iPad getting it in iPad OS 19. So that's fun too.
Be fun. Yeah, I mean, the free placement thing is fine. Like, it's not, I think it will be great when we have it. Like, people will be excited about it. I don't even know if I feel like I don't think I could do it right now. Like, because I'm just so used to, like, over time, I've just minimized my home screens down to, like, just the apps, right? Like, it's always over time been about minimizing how many home screens I have. And so now, like, my main home screen, I wouldn't want a gap on it because I don't have any gaps free. You know what I mean? It's all full up. I need everything that's there. So I don't know how I'll do with that. But I know it would be cool. I know people are really going to dig it. And it would be nice to have a bit of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see them do some interesting stuff with wallpapers, but I don't know what. Like, I've always liked the idea of. I feel like this happened at some point where you could kind of have like live photos on the home screen and that they would kind of animate a little bit.
Isn't it still possible?
Maybe they brought it back with the new stuff.
But like nobody does it.
I know it was on the lock screen. Was it on the home screen too?
Do you have to like press and hold?
It wasn't the lock screen for sure. Like, and it's a feature that Apple never really improved.
So what I'm thinking of is like the dynamic wallpapers that have existed on Android, stuff like that, right? Like things like that people could make, like stuff like that. I've always thought could be kind of interesting, just to add a little bit of something.
Which Apple supports to a degree on the Mac, like in Sonoma. You have like all the moving ones or like the Apple TV screensaver. I'm not saying that they would go that far, but having a dynamic wallpaper that would shift color throughout the day, or like have a landscape that's daytime in the sun and nighttime, lit by moonlight. Like that sort of stuff I think would be really interesting. And they're already doing it elsewhere, which is cool.
So stuff like that would be kind of cool. I feel like maybe I've kind of gotten a little bit over the idea of home screen custom. Like, it's one of those things where, like, I've wanted it for so long, like, to have more, and then I got widgets, and it's like, I'm just going to be happy with widgets. So, like, maybe my mind is too closed to this now. Can you open it for me, Federico?
I don't know. Still, I have many thoughts on this. I still think, first of all, that those widgets on, like, the interactive widgets are cool, but they could be so much more. Like, and that's the reason I think why I don't use those interactive widgets that much. I mean, I don't use the interactivity on the lock screen at all, but even on the home screen, the shortcut that I use, the widget that I use most is the shortcuts one, and that's because it's using a private API that allows the shortcuts widget to present interfaces. Like, right. I want to have widgets on my iPhone, on the home screen, that let me type a note and save it from the home screen, right? And that's only possible with shortcuts right now, because only shortcuts, and fun fact, the contacts widget of all things, they are the only widgets that can show you UI and accept actual interactions with that UI on the home screen. That should be available to all third-party developers. Like, let me have a widgetsmith. Steven, I know that you're involved, but still, don't take this as a feature request. And also, you don't need to comment.
No, take it as a feature request.
Take it as a feature request, but you don't need to comment. But like, let me have a widgetsmith widget that lets me type out a quick note or a quick reminder from the home screen without having to launch widgetsmith. So that's one of the things that they should do. But also, people would go absolutely wild if they could have more control over their home screen layouts. Like, I still see, it's been 4 years since iOS 14. I still see much younger people than me. And that's one of the things I'm thankful for, is that thanks to Sylvia's job, I get to hang out with people that are like 15 years younger than me. And I see that how they're still customizing their phones. It's wild, the things they do, the seasonal themes that they install on their phones.
That would be like cool.
How much care they take to make their home screens look nice. And so if Apple gave them actual controls to place icons anywhere and to have more controls over the colors or the text labels of those icons, they would lose their minds, I think, and in a really good way. So That said, I think Apple should absolutely copy things that we have seen on Android, and do it in a more elegant and consistent Apple way. That's the way I like to think about it. For certain features, Android sort of explores the territory, and Apple builds on it, like refines the idea. So place icons anywhere, and maybe there could be a nice way to do that. Grab multiple icons, drag them around in a new system that's better than the one that we've had so far. Like, we've all been there before, right? You try to place an icon on your iPhone's home screen, and then the next icon moves.
Yeah, it's the worst.
And you're like wasting 5 minutes of your life
to move widgets around.
Trying to
and
move
they're just
widgets
going
around.
backwards, forwards,
Yeah.
backwards, forwards.
That
Like,
system
what
is bad,
happening?
and has
Yeah.
always been bad.
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't know, I kind of like the idea of, and this is something that exists on macOS. Let me define a system-wide accent color. Like, this is something that Android has. This is something that macOS has.
Yep.
And so, thinking about it in an iOS kind of way, let me define an accent color, and maybe there will be a way for developers to provide icons for their apps that automatically conform to the accent color.
Very cool.
Right?
Like theming. It's theming, right?
Like
theming the
yes.
entire operating
Theming,
system,
but
essentially.
in an
Yeah.
API-based way that we know that Apple loves doing, because they have the ecosystem to do it.
Yeah. And then the EU could tell them that everyone else has to do it too.
See what the Department of Justice has to say about that.
That's right. You picked the wrong colors. Try again.
This is something that I also mentioned on the next episode of App Stories for next week. Like, and maybe this is a topic that we should revisit for the future. The more Apple gets regulated, the more I think they should really think about, like, becoming an API driven company, in the sense that, like, the best way to not get regulated is to open up any feature you do to third party developers with an API.
Yeah, I think they've been moving in that direction.
They have. There have been signs, right? Journal, for example, comes to mind. So yeah, icon placement. Let me choose to have a denser grid. Like, let me put more icons in the place where
I would like. Yes.
In the dock on my iPhone, like, let me put 6 icons instead of 4. Like, at this point, like, I still feel like part of Apple's design theme is still stuck on this idea of, like, the purity that Johnny Ive once conceived. And while that's okay to keep as a default, like, I think we are now maybe, and especially the new generations, we're maybe now past the time of the designer coming down from the mountain holding the one true design that should be followed at all times.
Yeah, I don't think I need so much space between my app icons anymore, because they're like, it's not even a tap target thing, because I'm able to interact with buttons inside of widgets very easily. So, and they're way smaller than an app icon. Exactly. So yeah, I think I could easily increase that. Then I would be able to do a bit of free placement then, because then I would actually have some space that's free. So that would be nice.
Yeah.
Widgets.
And yeah, and then maybe wallpapers. Do you guys remember the rumor from a few years ago that Apple was going to do official wallpaper apps with, like, a wallpaper API, and you would find all compatible wallpaper packs in settings or something? I still think it's a good idea, and I still think it's something that should be standardized by Apple. There's all kinds of, some of them good, some of them shady, wallpaper apps on the App Store. There's a lot of them.
I mean, who's going to need it, though, when you can just ask Siri to make you a wallpaper?
Sure. But hey, this is where you get the feedback from people. Oh, Myke, why do you hate artists and creators who sell wallpapers? And we don't need to get into that. I know that you don't.
So I had a funny thing yesterday. This is just like so it's like, there was a piece of artwork that I wanted to make. And it was like a variation of a podcast logo. And it was very simple. I knew exactly what I wanted. And I thought to myself, it's just changing some colors and adding in some texture as a background. So I was like, let me try to use Adobe's generative fill stuff, right? So I'm like, make this look like this and give me a background that looks like this, right? So I was like, let me just go do that. I did it. It looked terrible. and I was struck by the fact of, like, you can give me all of the tools in the world, but I still can't do it. Like, just because I now have the tools to create exactly what I want, it still doesn't look like it. Like, it still takes the eye of someone who has and the talent, right? Like, you need both. And it was just really funny where it's like, oh, I want this to be gold and this to look like leather, and I did it, and I got both of those things. Like, it still doesn't look right. So I've reached a designer instead. It's like, right,
Yeah. So anyway, unrelated to this. So I think these are some of the ideas that I think Apple should implement for more customization. I do have one request for you guys and maybe for the audience. This is I was thinking about this when thinking about wallpapers. One of the problems that I have is that I purchase a ton of wallpapers from people on Gumroad. This is something that I do.
You're just keeping that entire industry in business.
There's a ton of stuff over there. It's
there's a ton of
it's
stuff.
Wild.
There's two places I spend money on the internet these days. Etsy for Vision Pro accessories. I have a wild story coming out soon. I hope tomorrow on the site. I need to take pictures. I spend money on Etsy and on Gumroad for wallpapers. Anyway, I have all these wallpapers, like folders with images. How do people keep them organized and in sync between devices? I don't want to save them to the Photos app in my photo library.
See, that's what I do. I have a album called Wallpapers, and there's like 3,000 things in there.
That would do it. And if you don't want them to show up, you could like set their date to all be like 10 years ago or something, and then they're just going to be at the top of your library.
I am sure that there's somewhere out there's a wallpaper organizer app that somebody made and 100 people use it around the world and they love it. And I want to be one of those 100 people. So if this exists, please let me know. And yeah, that's we'll see. iOS 18, biggest update in history because it lets you drag icons around.
You just be like, hey, iPhone, arrange my home screen. That's what's going to happen. It's going to do it for you.
The only thing I would add to the list is I would like an option to have the app library automatically sort alphabetically.
Yes.
So you want the view that you get when you start the search to just be the app library view?
Yeah.
So this is another piece of feedback that Sylvia had. So she saw the app library in the iPad dock. And she's like, what's this? It's new. And so they're, this is a new feature compared to the last time we tried this. It's called the app library. It does such and such. It's like, I love it. So how can I customize the categories? And I'm like, there we go.
I love the app library. I am like an app library absolutist. I don't want it to change at all.
Literally within 5 seconds, she asked me, so can I make my own categories? I was like,
just give it options. Just let us change it if we want to, because I think a lot of people do like the way it works. But
what I have found is like of a lot of things, if you just use it, like it does get better. Like, how when you start a Spotlight search and a lot of the time the app that you want is the app that's there, right? Do you have that happen to you?
Mm-hmm.
Right, Federico, do you have that happen to you? Like, you pull down to start a spot. No, just from the home screen, you start a Spotlight search and the app that you want is there, right?
Yeah.
App library is like that for me. Like, if I go to the app library, most of the time the app that I want is like one of the top ones because they're the apps that I'm picking a lot. Like, the system is learning, but you kind of just have to give into it. But I understand not a lot of people want to, but I do. I give into the app library.
Okay. Well, there you go.
There you go. We'll see. The biggest update ever.
Biggest update ever.
What a
Absolutely
statement.
Incredible.
What a statement.
Well, it's only a statement Mark Gurman's made so far.
Do we think as the weeks go by and as we approach WWDC, are they gonna lean into the AI puns?
Well, I mean, they already have.
Well, are there gonna be more?
How many statements would you imagine they will be given? You know what I mean? Like the places in which they would do it. I feel like
I don't know. It's gonna be astoundingly interesting.
I mean, the next opportunity will probably be the press invitations.
Right. Yes.
Right? Which will probably have something.
Amazingly intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
We should move on.
We should move on.
We should move on.
Threads is joining the metaverse. So this has been
Fediverse.
The
teased.
metaverse?
Fediverse.
The
Fediverse.
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse.
It's joining the Spider-Verse.
Mark Zuckerberg is in the Spider-Verse. He's going to
And
be in
it's
the next
ripped.
movie. You know what? I actually believe he could be Spider-Man if he wanted to be. Anyway. Threads is joining the Fediverse. This was something that they said would happen. Lots of people believed wouldn't happen, but is happening. And they've started... it feels like they're rolling it out. I think it's just like Canada, Japan, and the US right now that users can turn on a toggle to have their Threads post be federated. So people on Mastodon can find your account. They can see your posts. They can react and like follow them and like them and stuff. And Meta is indicating that this is like a growing thing. So my hope would be that like in the future they would just work, right? That like you'll get all of the posts and you'll be able to reply and people will see it on Mastodon and like the whole like it'll be fully integrated. So essentially it would feel like people using Threads, it was like they were just on Mastodon. So it seems like it's happening. More is coming. I wanted to know kind of, well, I think only Stephen can enable it, but so really have you, and also Federico, and I will answer too, would you enable your Threads accounts to be viewable?
Yeah, I would enable it.
You would?
I think. Yeah,
You have, or you would?
I would because I can't
Okay.
right now.
Yeah. I thought you said you had. But Stephen, have you done it?
I did. The first day it just kept giving me an error, but they got that straightened out. And so ISMH86 at threads.net can be seen from Mastodon if you're on an instance that hasn't blocked Threads for some reason. I've had a little bit of an issue where I can see it from a mastodon.social account that I have that I don't use, but it's kind of a placeholder. But I can't see it from my actual one, even though I follow other Threads users from eworld.social.
Huh.
The whole thing feels like we've added DNS to social media in a way that I don't particularly care for. But I did turn it on because I figure if people are on Mastodon, because, you know, like in our audience, they want to use Ivory and they want to see what I'm doing on Threads, then why not turn it on? It was very simple. I would like to know why I can't follow it from eWorld, but maybe that just takes time because like the server's got 2 users on it, so maybe it just takes time. But it is a step in the right direction, I think. And there are some limitations. Like if someone on Mastodon or elsewhere in the Fediverse like likes your thing, all you see in Threads is a Fediverse user liked your thing. So it is early days of this. But yeah, I figured why not turn it on? Why not have that content be percolating elsewhere?
I just found you. I didn't think to look, but there you go. I found you and followed you, so my little server can find your account.
And Zach says he can't see it from there, so I don't know what's going on.
Who knows?
Yeah, and I guess eventually maybe it'll go the other way too. This is just Threads content going out to the Fediverse, but again, this is step 1 of 150, I think.
So I guess, well, you did it, and Federico, you said you would do it, but like,
Yeah.
why? Like, what would be your thinking?
I think there's people. So I've been posting different content between Mastodon and Threads.
Same.
And I think there's people who don't want to install Threads that would still be interested in seeing what I post on Threads. And so the Federation would allow them to follow me without having to use Threads.
Okay.
So it's just an option.
But you would imagine that if you did this, you would still be managing and maintaining both accounts?
Well, that's the world we're living in, right?
For
So-
now, I mean that's
But this
the
is
other
the world.
question.
But this is the exact world that would mean you wouldn't have to,
Yeah.
right?
Well, so here's the thing. I don't think I'm realistically ever going to give up my personally owned Mastodon instance with my domain. And, you know, especially looking ahead at the things we're going to do with Mac Stories and ActivityPub, I am not going to just say, hey, buy Mastodon account. I'm just going to be on Threads.
Right.
Okay. So that's why.
That makes sense. I understand that. I think I'm leaning that I might just just go all threads. Like I think I might just do that.
Interesting.
I don't really enjoy managing my. As time has gone on, like the value of it, I understand, and like a lot of the reasons that I wanted to have my own instance, like of borne out to be accurate. Like I like the idea of having something that's mine. Like I do like that, but ultimately the realistic upside kind of is zero for me. It's just more idealistic upside, and I don't know if the idealistic upside is worth the overhead, both financially, which is not a lot of money, but like, do I need to pay for this? And also the like, sometimes I get emails from Masto host, and I'm like, do I need to do anything? And I'm logging into admin panels and all kinds of. It's just like I don't want to be dealing with this. And so I think for me, I would lean towards probably going just to threads, and like, because I just think for me personally, and for what I am using social media for, I think threads makes the most sense. And so I think that might be what I end up doing. And it would just be made so much easier by the fact of like, if you don't want to be on threads or you want to use Mastodon, great. Like that's the whole point. Now you can follow me on my threads account, but it's Mastodon and like everyone's happy, you know? So that's kind of where I think I'm leaning, but I'll have to wait and see kind of like how it rolls out. Like I don't expect to make any kind of change for a long time, but I think my gut right now tells me that that's probably where I'll end up going. Because like I'm posting different content on different services, but just because I can't be bothered to post the same thing on two places, like it's all just me.
And that's wrong. It's not like, you don't want to cross.
Well, you do it, so like
only in self-promotion, which we all agreed was a fine carve-out.
Nobody agreed. Just you. You created the rule that it was bad, and then the rule carve-out that allowed you to do it without people sending you posts all the time about it. I kind of don't care about people cross-posting, but I just can't be bothered to cross-post.
I feel like what Zach just said in Discord is also my approach to this. Like Zach wrote, Threads is for my current events, vague posts, and Mastodon is for my computer posts. That is exactly how I've been largely using Threads. For example,
I've been doing that too, but I also don't feel like I'm fine putting it all in one place. I'm just not. But yes,
I posted about the fact that I was gonna play Skyrim in 2024 on Threads. And first of all, that silly post absolutely took off. And I got so many useful replies, like actually fun and kind and useful replies with suggestions. If I did that on Mastodon, I would have gotten a bunch of reply guys telling me there's a much better RPG that you should play. Or, you know, what device are you playing these on a Steam Deck? Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Like, you know, it's a very different audience. And so the computer stuff goes on Mastodon, which is great for, I mean, let's face it, it's very tech lean. It's a very tech lean audience. And the more mainstream, you know, fun, it's about sort of life and events stuff goes on Threads.
Yeah, you see, I'm what you said there about like loads of people see it. Like that's part of my thinking, which is the Threads algorithm has the ability to surface the content that I want people to see to the people that might see it. Mastodon does not have that, right? And if I'm thinking about what am I putting on social media, 90% of what I'm putting on social media is stuff I want people to see from my career. Right. I got out of the habit. Twitter beat out of me the idea of sending vague posts or sending quick things. I so seldom post anything inconsequential. It is incredibly rare.
Like, what is your threshold for inconsequential?
It has to be something that I genuinely feel like...
my Skyrim post would have been inconsequential. Like, hey, I'm playing this cool video game.
I'm not sure if I would have posted that.
Right, okay.
Because I can't be bothered with the replies. Right?
Right,
so, like,
okay.
It has to be the most... If I'm going to post a joke, it has to be completely innocuous now, as far as I can imagine it. Right? Like, this is what Twitter just did to me. right? If I feel like I'm ever gonna, it's just a simple rubric. Am I willing to give up? This is what I've said this before, but am I willing to give up the rest of my day to this post? That's what I ask myself this question. And 99% of the time, what it means is I close the compose window.
Okay.
And so like for me, if I'm going to post anything now, it's by and large like pretty much work stuff or things that are related to work. And so then Threads works because they surface that content to people. And I like Threads more now for me as a content like mechanism, because the algorithm's very good at knowing what I like. It knows exactly what I want to see, and I see it. And when I love now where if you see something you don't like, you just swipe it right and it hides it, and the algorithm learns from it. And so then I don't see content about that anymore. And like the fact that the Instagram and Threads algorithms are tied together means that I see stuff which is like related to the stuff that I follow on Instagram, which is like tends to be simpler things, or like it's like a lot of Formula One stuff or whatever. So I get a lot of Formula One things on my Threads, which is great. And it's also accounts that I don't need to follow, so I don't need to get that stuff all the time. So when there's like a big event going on, I'm getting the information about it. Like I find it to be quite a good mechanism. I find the experience of using Threads to be far superior to my experience of using Twitter, right? So like a service that it is more like because of the algorithm. And then I use Mastodon, and Mastodon is mostly my computer nerd friends, but I would be totally happy to have that content show up in the Threads, in my Threads account instead, and just have one to deal with. I don't really want to, personally, I don't see much of a benefit to continuing to deal with like two very similar social networks. Like it's just not necessarily what I want to be doing. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. I just wanted to get a check-in from you both. To me, it seems like you would probably both continue doing both, but have your Threads account there just because why not? Like in the Fediverse.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
This episode of Connected is made possible by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. Squarespace gives you all the tools you need to build a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything, products, services, and even content. With Squarespace, you can make the most of Fluid Engine, their next-generation website design system. You start with a best-in-class template and then customize every detail with reimagined drag-and-drop technology for desktop and mobile. This is built in and ready to go on any new Squarespace site. And those design tools extend to email newsletters. You can encourage site visitors to sign up to become subscribers to your emails. You start with an email template, you customize it with all those same brand ingredients. And the built-in analytics measure the impact of every send. And those analytics also apply to the website. See, this is what I mean. Everything you need is all in one place. Their analytics are really easy to understand. You can see where traffic is coming from. You can see what products are selling. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand what's working on your site. And that's what I love about Squarespace. You can build something awesome without having to be a web developer, without having to really dive into things. You can focus on telling your story, expressing your brand, selling your goods. I love building on Squarespace. I think you will too. Check it out at squarespace.com/connected for a free trial. And the code connected will get you 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. That's squarespace.com/connected and the code connected for 10% off your first purchase and to show your support for this, your favorite podcast. Our thanks to Squarespace for the support of Connected and Relay FM.
The one true Jonathan.
The one true Jonathan. Yeah, so I had a blog post out this week looking at this concept that was kicking around Apple about a year after the Macintosh went on sale. And it's important to remember that back in the 80s in particular, like it wasn't a given there'd be another Macintosh because they went like Apple II, Apple III, Lisa, Mac. Like those all overlapped a little bit, but companies didn't necessarily stick with a platform and improve it. They were like, build a whole new computer every time. Just not the way things work today, but it's how things worked in the early days. And the Jonathan was a concept floating about that time that was really designed to be as customizable as possible. So, sort of in a nutshell, the Jonathan had like a backbone, and then you slid in these modules. So you'd have like your power supply module, your floppy disk module. You'd have one that had like the compute for like your Mac system. But then maybe you could also get a compute one that brought DOS to your system, or audio interface to your system. And it would look, if once it was all built out, like a bookcase with all these modules plugged in and then a CRT on top of it. You could see a picture, it's the chapter art right now, the way this could look. I should say the renders in the article are done by NanoRaptor. If you don't follow Dana's work on social media, you totally should, because there are very few photos of this thing out in the world, very little information. So it was fun to dive into it and hopefully open people's eyes to what this thing could have been.
I have 2 questions for you that we need to address before we continue.
Yes.
1, why is it called the Jonathan?
Yes.
Which is a really, really stupid name for a computer.
It is.
Especially the in it. And 2, how did you find the Jonathan?
The engineer at Apple who was championing this idea was named Jonathan Fitch, and he was so happy with it he named it after himself.
Interesting. So the guy who created the Mac was called Mac Fitch?
Well,
but like, there is already precedent, right? At this point, why didn't he just call it Jonathan?
Jonathan is also a type of apple, so there's also like that play, because Macintosh is also a type of apple. Like,
Yeah. No.
And the guy just so happens to be called Jonathan.
But
just
what
so
I'm
happens.
saying is, why didn't he just call it Jonathan? Why is the there?
It's it's like, oh, and this is the Jonathan. You know,
Because we already have Lisa, right?
what? Well, so Apple now doesn't want you to use those words, right? They want you to call it iPhone, not the iPhone. Maybe
Yeah.
it's in backlash to this. I believe
that's not true.
That's not true at all.
No.
I believe the actual project name was Jonathan Computer Concept, but I couldn't nail that down. It was just one source, and so I went with the Jonathan.
Was that something that journalism school made you do?
It did. Yeah, my degree
Right, okay.
dictated it. I also had frog design as 2 words. Sometimes they use their name as 1 word. It's very confusing. So it was this concept where you could basically build your own computer, and they went to Frog Design, who did a mock-up of it. The very, very few handful of pictures of this thing come from the Frog Design work. It's like in a slate gray color, and there's also like a snow white kind of platinum color. These photos basically exist in 1 book, and there are a couple photos on the internet that people say are from the actual time period, but that's hard to confirm. So very little information and very little photos.
And how did you come across this? Like, why did you write this? Like, what happened that made you write this?
So I came across this the first time because of the renders that, again, I'm fortunate enough to have in the article by Dana, or NanoRaptor. She's put all sorts of wacky renders on social media for years. And the first time I saw this, I was like, oh.
Seen a NanoRaptor image and thought it was real, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's happened to everybody.
It's happened everywhere.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Federico, you have seen NanoRaptor renders before, like on social media.
No.
You've definitely seen them, because the NanoRaptor accounts is basically just like, most of the time it's like hardware that looks like it could have existed but is fake. Like, it's fake stuff that they make.
Yeah.
And you will have 100% seen these before, but you might just not be familiar with it, because they just get reposted all the time. Yeah.
I've got there are links in the article to her Mastodon and Blue Sky account. My favorites are like the boxes for software that didn't come in boxes. For some reason, that always tickles me. But I saw these renders, a while ago, and I was like, oh, I wonder what that's about. And basically, like, it triggered me a memory from a Apple book that I have on my shelf. I was like, oh, that name is familiar to me, but I kind of just like put it into do list with like a year deadline, like write about the Jonathan. And it finally came up. I was like, you know what? I got some time this week. This is a good time to do this. And so it is, or was a real concept. There was real, at least mock-up hardware built. I'm very unclear on how far down the road of functionality they got. Nothing I have read says, and this thing was up and working. I believe what they showed John Scully and the other Apple executives was the frog design mock-up, and then basically a lot of talk about this is how we think this could work. And I have it in the blog post, but there's a couple books that talk about this. And basically John Scully was like, well, if someone can run Mac OS and DOS on the same computer, what if they like DOS better and they actually leave the Apple ecosystem? Because the team working on this thought, okay, you'll want to use your Mac, right? Or the next generation of the Apple platform, whatever that is. But you also may need to use other systems, and you can rely on those things sort of in a legacy mode through this module. But because it's super flexible, you'll just stay in the Apple ecosystem. And I think Scully was right to kill it. I mean, it's a bananas concept. It would have cost a fortune. And I think it would have opened the door because we know historically the Mac was good for a time and then got bad or didn't evolve the way some of the other platforms did. And so I think they were right to kill it. But it's just like this weirdo, what could have been like alternative timeline thing. And the renders are amazing. The photos are amazing. The whole thing is so wacky. I couldn't help myself but dive into it.
It's called the Jonathan. You know, like the name it's begging to be written about.
Yeah.
The computer is called the Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this isn't your average computer. This one's a Jonathan.
It's Jonathan.
They wouldn't have shipped it with that name, right?
I wouldn't think so, but who knows?
The Jonathan.
They did Lisa. But of course, you know, by this point, by the time this would have come out, Jobs would have been gone. So who knows?
I don't know if that means they would or they wouldn't.
Exactly.
It feels like Apple at that time were doing a lot of things maybe they shouldn't have been doing. So maybe really they should have done the Jonathan. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's what time has taught, because they were doing things then that they shouldn't have been doing. So maybe the things that they thought they shouldn't do were the things they should have done.
Yeah. And as Daphne points out in the chat room, Apple did support DOS compatibility through add-in cards that they made themselves, but that was a few years down the road and not the same thing as this. And so there is some irony that some of the technology in this concept came to fruition, as did some of the work on. So the processor that was going to, I guess, power all of this, or at least power the Mac part of it, was going to be the 68030. That was basically a promised processor that wasn't out yet, but that work on that platform ended up paying off in some later Macintosh models. So it's not like all this work went to waste. Some of the concepts showed up elsewhere. I got a cool blog post out of it 40 years later, and now people can learn about it.
I'm sure everyone feels like their work was worth it now that you've written about it.
I hope that you know the people working on this read this and are like, yeah, people now know about the thing we did, because it is interesting. Like I kind of talk about this towards the end of the article, but I didn't jump super like down this rabbit hole. I really kind of want to focus on just what the concept was. But the idea is still kind of around, like that you can run on your Mac, you can run iPhone and iPad software, you can run stuff in the command line, you can run web apps, like, and that's all solved on the software layer now, not the hardware layer. But the hardware layer made me think of our friend Federico and his MacPad. Like, this is the most Federico computer of the 80s ever, because you're building exactly what you want with the components you need to get your job done.
No kickstands though.
No kickstands. You're gonna need a big table though. This thing must have weighed 1,000 pounds.
Visually, I do kind of like it. Like, as a way to do what they were trying to do, I think that the ideas, like the visual design of it's pretty good. Like, I'm talking specifically about the renders.
Yeah.
Like the real ones that were, the frog design ones, like, because that's obviously the closest that we can get to it actually of being a real thing. And I think like the stack of things underneath the display looks really nice. It's got kind of Xserve vibes to me.
Yeah, kind of.
Like with the slots, or like a Drobo or something.
Yeah,
I dig it. I like looking at keyboard too. It looks nice.
Yeah. The two photos are of the frog design hardware, and the renders are kind of based on those. And there's like Next DNA in this, like the display that frog design put together for this concept, straight up is what Next ended up shipping like 6 years later. I mean, some of this hardware is very cool. The black sort of slate color, very different than anything Apple was doing at the time, and really ever did. Like they never really kind of did a blue-gray plastic. But that was part of it. I think when you have a concept like this, part of it is how it looks, because particularly in something like this, where you're going to have these modules and the system kind of does whatever magic it needs to do to make it all work together. Like the functionality and the design are one thing, right? Like in one of her renders, she has like a Roland interface. And it's like, yeah, like Roland is going to put their stuff on it and like design it and have their logo on it, but it's going to kind of match the design of the whole family, and you can like build your own thing. That's super interesting, and something that we don't have now when all this is sort of abstract software and not hardware on our desks, at least for most of us without MacPads.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want one. I want one. I wish some of these were floating around. It'd be cool to have.
A Jonathan?
Yeah. There is a project. Someone sent me a link. I need to look into it more. Some people have been like 3D printing like enclosures and stuff that kind of in this style, which is fun. Maybe I'll do that and put like my SSDs in like a Jonathan case one day.
It's not like people aren't making things to look like the Jonathan, right? Like it's just something that looks like it, surely.
No. It's like one project very specifically is like 3D print your own Jonathan.
Jeez. How are there enough people that know about this?
Again, like when you Googled this, there's like 4 things. And none of them,
maybe
I think,
it's Jonathan.
Maybe it's just Jonathan.
That might actually be Jonathan.
Could be. It could be. And that's why I took the time, like going through these books, quoting the books, because there was very little information. It was scattered. And now I hope this blog post is like the one true source of information about this thing. And getting to use the renders is just a cherry on top.
Why, you don't know the answer to this question, but I'm asking it, why does everybody at Apple take the H out of Jonathan? Why does that happen?
Oh, yeah. You got to ask his mom. Maybe she named him.
Because Johnny too, right? It's Jony. What's going on over there? No H's?
It's confusing. I mean, it's an H-free zone. What do you think of this, Federico? You've been quiet.
Yeah, no, I'm still thinking about the fact that these renders, like I think I saw these renders from this account a while back. I never really paid attention. I always thought they were actually real products.
This is what I'm saying about the NanoRaptor stuff. Like, I've seen so many things that have been reposted from that account, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. And it took me a long time to realize that some of it isn't real. And it was like something of a keyboard once where I was like, that just doesn't look like it could even work. And then I realized, oh, none of this stuff's real.
So why does she do it?
I think she just loves old computers and is really good at Blender. And so it's like making this stuff for people's enjoyment.
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, it is remarkable how realistic they look.
Yeah. There's one, I didn't put it in here, that she did that's like chrome plated. It's very shiny and reflective, which is quite fun. I'll put that in the Discord for people to see.
But I mean, to answer your question, obviously the idea of a modular computer sounds incredible. And I would have totally, if this existed and I was older, like I would have, this would have been a dream, slotting different components. I mean, sign me up, Yeah, it
would have been sweet. I think that does it for this week. If you want to find links to the stuff we spoke about, check out the links in your podcast player. You can also find them on the web at relay.fm/connected/495. While you're there, you can submit feedback or follow up. We have a form there that you can use. We also have an awesome membership program called Connected Pro. Connected Pro members get longer ad-free versions of the show each and every week. We've been talking about shower follow-up, just even more.
Unfortunately,
for some reason, it never ends. But Connected Pro, $7 a month or $7 a year. We would love to have you sign up. You can find us all online. You can find Myke. His work is scattered across the network, a bunch of great shows. You can also find his work at Cortex Brand. You can follow him on Threads as iMyke and on Mastodon as iMyke at myke.social. Federico is the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net. You can find him online, Vitici on Threads and Vitici at MacStories.net on Mastodon. You can find my writing at 512pixels.net, and I co-host MPU each and every Sunday here on Relay FM. And I'm ISMH86 on Threads and ISMH at eworld.social on Mastodon. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Ecamm, ZocDoc, and Squarespace. And until next time, say goodbye.
Arrivederci.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.